Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here with Luke from Zero Gravity Media, and we're going to be discussing the alt-right and sort of what's happening on the alt-right. And I think that they're turning to religion more and more because they don't have any principles or a systematic philosophy of their own. So we're going to be discussing that a bit. How you doing, Luke?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing all right. Over there in Germany?
Yeah.
With your fresh meat, fresh vegetables, and spring water?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I never had the, ladies and gentlemen, we never explained to them why you eat fresh meat and vegetables. You want to say one sentence about that?
I mean, the only reason is because you can get fresh vegetables from the local farmer for like dirt cheap, next to nothing. And then the meat from the grocery store is just really, really low quality. I would like sift through the ribeyes at the grocery store. Maybe once a month I find one worth buying. But so I just go to the local butcher because he can get Angus and whatever else that I want. It's like super high quality meat, and it's basically the same price.
All right. So, not because there's a shortage of food or anything and you have to go to a local farmer. I didn't want to leave the wrong impression.
Oh, no. There's not like a food. No. There's no food shortages. There's like good food shortages, especially when it comes to meat and beef. Beef is so expensive in Europe. It's insane. And American beef is extremely difficult to get. You can't just sort of buy American beef. The American beef markets are pretty closed off to the rest of the world. You have to really have a solid distributor in the United States who's willing to sell you beef outside the United States. Just because it's so high quality, everybody wants it.
Wow. Huh. I didn't realize that about beef. I thought probably there were protectionist markets around the world that want to protect their own beef markets so they have high tariffs or something against us.
I don't think so, man. I mean, Germany gets all their beef from Argentina, Australia, Uruguay, these sorts of countries. And every now and again at the grocery store, they'll have like a special where like they happen to get some American beef. But if you go to like a local butcher, they usually have a distributor they can get American beef from.
Interesting. American beef's top quality, huh?
Totally. Yeah,
Wow.
100%. Americans, their beef game is on point.
Wow. I know that beef's so expensive they were using horse meat at Burger King, a lot of Burger Kings in Europe for a few years there.
I don't know anything about that.
No, it was a scandal. It was true.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but I don't really eat fast food here because it's so much more expensive here, and I don't know what it is. It's not as good as the fast food in America. My wife hates fast food, and even she agrees.
It's not as good as America. Wow, what do they use? Different oils and stuff or something?
I don't know, man. I think they just get. I mean, have you been to Europe before?
No.
Okay, things just like fundamentally taste different here. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I don't know what it is, but it's just it's a nuanced, subtle difference, but it's different. Like the restaurant food, in my opinion, tastes better here. But the fast food, for some reason, I don't know. It's like Americans have mastered the art of fast food. Every time I go back to the States, I have a list of like 15 fast food places I need to go. Taco Bell, McDonald's, Sonic, Whataburger.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, we're not discussing the far right here at all, are we?
No. Well, actually, after the Climate Town Hall this week on CNN, we are in a way because they don't want you eating red meat anymore. It's bad for the environment.
Boy, they are going nutso, those Democrats.
Yeah, dude. They're off the reservation, man.
It's interesting. If vegetables taste so good and they're so wonderful as a base for food, why do they keep on trying to make them taste like meat all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Did you see? I think it was Sonic or some restaurant. They came up with a meat based carrot substitute.
It's Arby's.
Oh, was it Arby's?
Yeah.
That would make sense. They're like the big meat restaurant, or they're always talking about all the meat.
Yeah, they say we've got the meat.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious.
Arby's is a good old school restaurant. If anybody wants to invest in a restaurant, I recommend Arby's. Well, their customer base is dying off. All their customers like to eat corned beef, so that's the part of the population they serve.
Do they? So they serve corned beef, like corn-fed beef.
Well, corned beef, whatever that is, and Reuben sandwiches. They have Reuben sandwiches, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Not corn-fed beef. They don't care what the damn animal eats.
Well, that does make a huge difference.
It does. That's the thing with the hippies. They want grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
Not corn-fed. Corn-fed it's expensive to feed an animal corn. So
yeah. I mean, the marbling, it's like visibly different. The marbling on a corn-finished beef versus grass-fed, grass-finished.
Oh yeah. So people who want grass-fed are hippies.
Yeah.
I think Wagyu is grass-fed only, but actually, I don't
maybe.
know.
I mean, for sure, breed makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah, this isn't far right either.
No.
Maybe we should.
I mean, again, after the CNN climate town hall, it's like, these are the sorts of conversations that are going to be banned from the internet in the future.
Oh my God, it's getting really bad banning people for talking about the silliest things, and straws. Straws and the type of meat you eat is now or type of food you eat is going to be among the things that get you banned from speaking now. Yeah. It's getting a little out of control.
Yeah.
And I saw a post that somebody said some leftist was arguing with other leftists, and she said it's called having a different opinion. And someone replied and said, "Oh, that's right out of the alt-right playbook. Having a different opinion right out of the alt."
You're alt-right now.
Yeah, because you have a different opinion.
Marianne Williamson came out recently and was like, "I can't believe the left," because they called her I don't know, Russ, my co-host on HSP, said that they accused her of being like crystal ball watcher or something like this. And she was like, I had no idea the left was so mean and blah, blah. It's like, where have you been the last 5 years, Yeah,
they don't mind when they're inside of it looking out, but once they get pushed out of the border and stuff gets thrown at them, then they are a little bewildered. Yeah, it's hilarious how Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein and even Jordan Peterson were sitting there in the middle of these hotbeds of leftism for decades, and then all of a sudden they themselves get in trouble and they come over to the right and they say, the left is falling apart. It's like, yeah, well, we've been telling you that for a long time, and the only reason you came over here to Piers is because you got in trouble with them. Seems like you were comfortable over there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so. I mean, all these people have been disaffected, and this is what Candace Owens is all about, is trying to convince Black Americans to abandon her little catchphrase is get off the Democrat plantation and come over to the right. Brandon Straka, who started the whole walk away movement, that hashtag on Twitter, he's trying to get the gay community to walk away from the left. You even have, because you have Ilhan Omar and AOC coming out with all these anti-Semitic remarks towards Israel, and the BDS movement, which is something divest. Is that what it is? I can't remember. But boycott, divest, and something else. Sanction. Boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. And so then for a while there was this Jexit movement, which was, to convince Jews to leave the left and come over to the right. So it's just one disaffected group after another.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson and Brett Weinstein and Eric Weinstein, they're just, singular manifestations of that.
Yeah, and they come over, and then Brett Weinstein, for example, on the Portal. Have you heard his new thing, the Portal?
No.
He started a webcast or a podcast or whatever, YouTube channel, and he does episodes with interviewing really high-profile people. He's only on episode 4. It's brand new. And he's talking about how the left wants to control people and the right wants to let everybody just self-organize and do their own thing. And he says there's no discussion about some medium road, so we're going to have a discussion about setting up new systems. And I don't know what that discussion will be, blah, blah, blah. So, in my view, he's bringing his stuff from the left over. You know, he like systems. He wants some big systems. What does he have in mind? He must have in mind what's going on the left, the stuff he's running away from. I think. What does he mean by if self-organization isn't good enough in his mind, then what has he brought from the left that he's talking about?
I have no idea. I honestly, I have not paid attention to him in several months, I would say. So I have no idea what he's on about these days.
Yeah. I think whatever he's on about, and whatever a lot of these leftists are on about, like Jordan Peterson coming from the left, what's he bringing with him? Except groupthink, religious groupthink. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson's bringing like sort of individualist primacy of consciousness. That's fundamentally what I understand him to be. And I've listened to a lot of him painstakingly. He's very difficult to listen to. But yeah, as I understand, he's kind of like one of these hesitant religionists who can't just openly say he believes in the existence of God. He'll give some long rationalistic answer about how it doesn't really matter if you think there's a belief in the existence of God. We can derive all these truths from tales and fables, and truth is just intrinsically out there, externally from you, and this sort of thing. And yeah, an individualist primacy of consciousness. I don't know. I haven't thought about Jordan Peterson in a while because the IDW as a whole has kind of stagnated in the last couple of months, in my opinion. So I haven't really been paying attention to any of that.
They were stagnated. I mean, when were they not stagnant, really, in my opinion? I mean, they are breaking off from the left. The left is collapsing. So it's an event to watch everybody scurrying away from the left. But the intellectual dark web, what does it have to offer other than a big tent for everybody who's running from the left and everybody who already wasn't on the left? I mean, the intellectual dark web doesn't offer atheism because it's got Jordan Peterson, and it doesn't offer or doesn't offer religion because it's got atheists. I mean, what does it offer? It's just a huge tent with everybody in it right now. Everybody.
I think that what it offers is just conversation, talking. You know, we can talk to each other without getting shouted down, this sort of thing. I think that's literally all it is.
So it's all of society except for a small select group of crazies that have corralled themselves off.
Meaning you're referring to the left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, this phenomenon that's happening with the left, it's just, you know, when Rand talked about, you know, the more consistent will always win out. That's just, we're just seeing that on the left. That's all this is. It's no more complicated than that. And, you know, as people like Jordan Peterson, the Weinstein brothers, and all these other people, Sam Harris, as the left's inherent contradictions bubble to the surface in their attempt to become ever more consistent in their principles, these people have to face those contradictions, and the extent to which they're honest is the extent to which they'll leave the left. And then they won't really call themselves right-wing, but they'll kind of just, you know, as Jordan Peterson likes to say, that, you know, we can all agree that we shouldn't have Nazi death camps.
Yeah.
You know? So congratulations, you've agreed on not committing genocide.
Yeah.
It's not really a big step forward.
And they're not too firmly committed to that in the sense that the left was supposed to be committed to that, and they have really slipped away from that, like saying that they want to, as soon as they get elected president, they're going to open camps for Trump supporters. Kamala Harris.
I haven't seen them say that. I mean, I've heard a lot of objectivists and other people talk about the left is like on the cusp of death camps and prison camps, and I don't really see that. I mean, maybe maybe your really nihilistic ones, like your ultra hardcore environmentalists, Antifa, these types, the ones that really are just truly nihilistic. Maybe those, but your democratic socialists and your run of the your garden variety democratic socialist, I don't really see them saying those kinds of things.
Well, I watched the debate between Destiny and somebody, and he was Destiny and some communist or socialist, and he said,
Okay.
doesn't it disturb you all of the joking by people they call tankies? I don't know what a tanky is, but he says, doesn't all this joking by tankies about gulags and Stalin, doesn't this bother you? He said that it's become a big thing, joking about gulags and Stalin on the left, without even, like, they just slipped into it and they're very comfortable with it all of a sudden, just like that, instead of fighting against this idea that they're Stalinists and they're opening gulags. They now joke about it, like, off to the gulag with him and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, this is... okay,
it's
happening.
It's
just a hardline Stalinist.
It's a hardline what?
Hardline Stalinist. I'm looking at Urban Dictionary right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a member of a communist group or a fellow traveler, sympathizer, believes fully in the political system of the Soviet Union and defended the actions of the Soviet Union and other accredited states, second world countries, in other words, to the hilt, even in cases where other communists criticize their policies and actions. So yeah, they're just hardline Stalinists.
So Destiny is alarmed at the amount of these people and at their seeming joking about gulags and Stalinist methodology. So
yeah, they're probably picking this up from the alt-right. To be honest with you, there's flip side of the same coin, because the alt-right, all of their memes are the same thing. They're all their memes are like fash wave memes, which they're unironically fascists, national socialists. Oh gosh, like Pinochet dropping people out of helicopters, taking people for helicopter rides, all of this kind of thing. This is like all of their memes, and it's funny to them. And they kind of enjoyed it, and it is kind of funny to watch the left just go crazy over this. But I mean, the thing is that when the left does it, they think they're being funny, but they're being serious. And then when the alt-right does it, they think everyone thinks they're being serious, but really they're just being funny. And so they're picking up this tactic from the alt-right where they're just like, oh, hey, well, we shouldn't, if we can't do this politically, let's just meme this into reality on the internet. And it sounds like that's what they're doing.
Well, if the left is serious, then they're going to build something like Soviet Russia or Nazi Germany to do their thing, or Venezuela, or China. I mean, that's what the left wants to build, right? Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what kind of a leftist you talk to. I mean, I think your Bernie Sanders... I mean, let's be honest. Like, we cannot have just, like, sweeping generalities about the left and the right. There's so many little encampments and there's still further, like, lots of subgroups when you refer to the left. So I think like your Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialists of America types, I think they are probably more concerned with turning America into something like Sweden or Norway or some, Nordic country, the Nordic model. And they even say as much. But then you get like the Chapo Trap House listening people, which is this leftist podcast. And they're starting to become like super, super radicalized towards definitely like the communist direction, memeing old Stalin quotes and Marx quotes and, about revolution and spilling the blood of capitalists and this sort of thing. So you have them. And then, and I think they're probably the ones also posting in forums and stuff in various places. I don't even know where. I haven't taken the time to find out. But then you've also got like your very super nihilistic ones, your hardcore environmentalists, your Antifa. I mean, Antifa is Red Army faction, the American version of the Red Army faction, which was which was Antifa in Germany. I believe in the 30s, in the lead up to World War II. and they're super nihilistic. So I wouldn't call the Democratic Socialists nihilistic. They're out to build a utopia. Now, obviously, that'll lead to death and destruction. You and I know that, but like, let's not confuse them either with the Antifa and the hardcore environmentalists.
Well, but at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is, like Bernie Sanders wants health care for all Americans, and he wants minimum wage and really high taxes on billionaires and
well, not healthcare just for Americans, also illegal aliens as well. Immigrants coming into this country illegally as well.
Yeah.
And he seemed to mention in the CNN Climate Town Hall that we should even be funding birth control in other third world countries for women who don't want to have kids as a means of fighting climate change.
Yeah, apparently Canada's already doing that.
Yeah, it's absolutely just disgusting and evil.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's actually...
they're using euphemisms at this point for eugenics. That's what it is. Because they would probably do this through Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood started as an organization, which was a eugenics organization, going into these other third world countries, such as India and Southeast Asia, and setting up abortion centers as a means of eugenics, population control. So the left has come full circle, and here they are again 60, 70 years later.
Well, that's what Planned Parenthood was in America, was population control for the poor people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you look at the statistics of aborted fetuses in the United States; it's overwhelmingly black. In fact, did you see that? Did you hear that phone call? Some guy, he recorded himself, called up an abortion clinic, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to make a donation to. I'd like to, fund some abortions." And the lady was like, "Oh, that's very generous of you, sir. How would you like to do this?" And he was like, "Well, here's the thing. I'm only interested in funding black abortions. Is that possible?" And she was like, I don't think I've ever been asked that, but I think we could make that work. and it was like all on tape, all recorded and everything.
Wow.
It went all over the internet a few months ago.
Huh. Yeah, but the debate about the abortion thing, I believe it should just be left to the 50 different states, and they should decide for themselves. And if you don't like the way your local state is, you kind of would have to move. If that's like really a big thing and you need to kill your baby, then you might have to move or go to another state. So.
Yeah, I honestly hate wading into the abortion debate. It's like a lose-lose. You're only ever going to piss people off because the likelihood that somebody agrees with when you think that life begins is so low, and everybody is so entrenched. It's almost just a complete waste of time for me.
Yeah, and not only that, it's religious too. The people are entrenched on religious grounds, so it's very difficult to make any ground with somebody who it has not been reasoned into their opinions. They've just been handed them by a church or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And that's so difficult to unseat as well. I mean, I went through that. I grew up Catholic and then found objectivism. So I had to peel back like all of these beliefs I had, been so thoroughly ingrained with for, up till I didn't find objectivism until I was almost 30, so up until then.
Wow. I was lucky to I grew up in the Mormon church, but I had older brothers who had Ayn Rand around the house. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was given for the new intellectual at a very young age. And
so how did your parents feel about you leaving the church? I mean, I presume you've left the church, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. They were both pretty much done with it. They were both pretty disillusioned with it. And
your parent?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom divorced my dad after 25 years and moved into a house on her own and started going to church again just as a social thing. But they were both pretty disillusioned with it. I mean, being inside the church, you sure see a lot of bad stuff. My dad used to say that if somebody tells you that they're from the bishopric is like the upper class bits of the church that run the church.
Okay.
He says if they tell you they're from the bishopric, hold on your wallet and back away.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Wow.
And they had this church farm, and they would hire farmers to come do it, and they'd pay the farmers for doing it. The farmers just go drive their combine down the through the wheat, and they would throw all this wheat out on the ground, and at the end, 70% of the wheat was just laying on the ground and would go to waste, and nobody cared. The church didn't care because it just didn't matter to them, and the farmer didn't care. He was getting paid the same amount one way or the other, no matter how much wheat came out of the field. And it just made my dad sick to see the ground being wasted, the machinery being run, and money being dumped into it, and nothing coming out at the end but waste, waste, waste.
Wow.
So just a big bunch of scandal. The whole church, and sleeping with each other and stuff all the time. Just disgusting. All the stuff that goes on in a church, and they run the whole state. They run the whole state in Utah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Utah is beautiful.
Oh, yeah, and it's one of the best run states in the nation, too. It's very well run, and the people there are very nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had a brush with Mormonism. It's really funny. I kept I had one Mormon girlfriend, and then later, in college, I had another Mormon girlfriend who I was on and off with for 4 years. And at the end, she finally had turned and gone back to the church. And she asked me, she was like, and this is before I found objectivism, she was like going to church a lot. And finally, one day I said, do you expect to marry a Mormon one day? And she was like, yes, I think I would. And I was like, all right, we should never speak again. And I just terminated that straight away. That was the last time we ever spoke.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you were convinced you definitely didn't need to be religious, even though you hadn't found objectivism at that point? Where did you stand on religion at that point?
Kind of disillusioned. I was super nihilistic in my early 20s because I went through an extremely, extremely hardcore military organization at Texas A&M University called the Corps of Cadets. And I had transitioned to Catholicism kind of late because my dad picked up Catholicism when I was about 14, 15 years old. So I was kind of old enough to grasp ideas, but I still didn't have any, which is the worst of both. And so I took Catholicism very seriously. Then I joined this military organization. So I had guilt from that, right? The Catholic guilt. Then layered on top of this organization I was in, your freshman year, you're not allowed to do anything. You don't have a first name. It's not your privilege to think. It's not your privilege to feel. You're not allowed to love anything except your mother. It's not a privilege to be an individual. Your room is completely bare. Your entire day is regimented. You are turned into a robot over the course of 9 months. And I've always been naturally inclined towards individualism. It's just something that's just in my personality. It always has been. And so that I did not like that. And so I channeled my energy. I said, well, if I don't get to own my life, well, then, goddamn it, nobody will. So I just started partying my ass off and just partied basically until I was 25. I was just like, well, shit, if I don't get to own my life, then better have fun. So I was both nihilistic, but, having fun. I was like, let's have fun while the ship sinks. Sort of a
hedonism then, huh?
Yeah, pure hedonism. I guess you could say that's a good way to put it. Then I went to Colorado. That kind of gave me some breathing room. I lived in a ski town, snowboarded all day, worked a chill job. That kind of gave me sort of a moment to just enjoy and kind of be at peace. I finished college, thank God. I barely managed to finish, but so I got my degree. And then when I went to San Francisco, that's when I began to realize that I basically had nothing. I was like a card-carrying Republican, and I'd get into these debates with people living in San Francisco who are, they're a very educated population, very smart, very passionate, and I could not hang. And I needed ideas. And this was 2012, right around when the Republican primaries were, and I heard Ron Paul saying all these things, and I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. And so I kind of started listening to more of his speeches and talks and stuff like this, and started reading a little bit, and then got into economics. I took a course from the Mises Institute. So at this point I was like, oh, economics is the answer. It's all economics. But something inside me was like, still, there's more. I know, I just don't know what it is. So economics was interesting, but I knew there was more. And then I watched this documentary about Ayn Rand, and Yaron Brook was in it. So then I looked up Yaron Brook on YouTube, and I found his talks, his speeches, and his debates back in the days when he was debating demos and all of these sorts of people. And that at that point, then I was hooked. And then I just devoured objectivist material for like 3 straight years after that.
Nice. Yeah, it's sure a clarifying thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it was like, okay, this is what I've been missing all these years. Like, this is what I needed. And it helped me understand what I went through in that military organization, helped me understand why I hated it, why I didn't like it. I mean, I came out with a lot of good friends, and like not a lot really phases me or bothers me at this point, because short of going to combat, I've pretty much dealt with all of it, so like nothing really, I've got a super level head. I can remain calm, as a result of all of that. But it's the sort of thing where it's like you're glad you went through it, but you wouldn't want your kids to go through it, sort of a thing.
Yeah. I grew up on a farm, and I had experiences like that, getting chased by cows or wrecking a motorcycle and having to walk home, 2 miles without your shoes because they fell off in the wreck, and you're bleeding, but you can't stop and cry, and you don't have a phone, and there's nobody around, so you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being in military training, or maybe even battle. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. But it's just amazing, how objectivism helps you understand past events in your life, and just how it's just so clarifying for so many different reasons.
Yeah, it also gave me like not really a purpose, but like when I was in my 8th and 9th grade, before I found objectivism, I got D's because I knew the school system was stupid. I could tell that for sure. So I just didn't care. And so the teachers just gave me a D and passed me along through the system. And then between 9th and 10th grade, I read for the New Intellectual, and I thought, well, if the system's really that stupid, then I should just use it for my own benefit, because I'd stopped believing selfishness was bad, and to look for something to benefit you was bad. Mm-hmm. So I decided, okay, so from 10th grade forward, I got virtually straight A's, and I graduated with 3.9. So wow. It was an amazing comeback from nihilism that I made. And along the way, I made a discovery that if I was that guy that got straight A's, occasionally a teacher that saw me get a bad test score or something wouldn't let it affect my grade out of concern that they would be the one that would have a bad effect on me. So I actually got a few A's that I didn't really deserve, and I realized I could do that because the teachers really didn't care. They didn't believe in the system either. And they saw a really intelligent, hardworking kid who might get a B+, and they said, no, I'm not going to let him do that. I'm going to give him the A because, screw the system. Just let him through. Let him go his way. So
wow,
it was a beautiful thing to discover.
Yeah, for sure. Especially at such a young age. So are your brothers, are they like objectivists like you are, or are you kind of the token objectivist of the family, if you will?
Yeah, I'm the one. I'm afraid I'm the objectivist.
Yeah.
My oldest brother moved to New York City, so he's got to fit in there.
Yeah.
And he fits in.
Yeah.
He manages to. I don't know how. A few, 10 years ago, he saw a talk. He went to a talk with Yaron Brook on environmentalism at New York University. He was able to just walk over there one night. And so he did, and I said, so what did you think of it? And he said, well, it makes a lot of sense. It is kind of like a new religion. So that's where he was 10 years ago. Now he's sharing stuff on Facebook about how Illinois is shutting down coal plants and opening up solar plants, and how this is a positive development. So he's just backwards now. I think it's because he would lose all his job and friends and probably the place that he lives if he came out as anti-environmentalist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how these city center, these metropolitan city center areas are just they just have this echo chamber effect, and these ideas just spread like viruses. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a few friends that I grew up with from Texas who were otherwise pretty, center left, center maybe center left, and they move out to the West Coast or something, and it's like within 3 years they are full blown democratic socialists.
Yeah. And I don't know if it can be that they've convinced the people. I think it's social pressure. I'm pretty sure a lot of it's social pressure.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of it's social pressure, and I think all these people carried, and I don't have to explain this to you, but all these people carried all of these moral underpinnings, and so in a sense, it's an emotion of resolve. It's resolution when they can finally embrace it all out on the West Coast, where nobody challenges them, where they're celebrated for it, and then they get that emotional resolution all at the same time.
And they fit in, and they're part of the group. Yeah, and they're welcome into the group, and
yeah.
Well, let's see. We're sure discussing a lot of interesting stuff. I don't know if we're discussing the turn to religion on the far right, though, or on the alt right.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't consider I would just push back and just say, do not consider the alt-right right. There's nothing about them that's on the right. They support Yang Gang. They support Democratic candidates. They hate Israel, so they support Ilhan Omar. David Duke, who was the politician down in, I don't know, Alabama or Mississippi or one of those states, maybe Louisiana, came out and celebrated Ilhan Omar as one of the most important politicians of our time because of her outspokenness against Israel. There is nothing about them that are right-wing at all, other than the fact that they used to be libertarians. That's it. So
the alt-right, you're saying?
The alt-right, yeah.
There's a lot of confusion about the alt-right because supposedly Candace Owens is a member of the alt-right.
No, that's nonsense. Anybody that says that has absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
Well, that's a lot of people on the left then.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. Yeah, they're trying their hardest to tie the alt-right to all of these other people. I mean, Joe Rogan is not on the right. He's like center left, right? And I don't know, The Guardian or some rag put out some article with like with a map of how Joe Rogan is inviting these alt-right figures, and so he's serving as like a funnel, a gateway to leading people into the alt-right because he invites Jordan Peterson on. But this is all leftist smearing, dishonesty on the part of the left. I mean, you look at the history of the alt-right, you look at what they stand for, and then you can summarily dismiss them as being on the right. They are not. They don't like Candace Owens. They hate Jordan Peterson. They think Jordan Peterson is a closet communist because of his work that he had done in the UN. And they hate all of them. They don't like any of them.
So they're not on the right, the alt-right.
No,
they're lefties.
They don't like the right. They hate Jordan Peterson. They make fun of them all. They put videos out lambasting them, saying that they're up to these dirty little tricks and all this sort of thing.
But they're turning towards religion for their deeper principles now because their nihilism is coming to a dead end.
The alt-right, or do you mean the IDW type, the Candace Owens type, the Charlie Kirk's type?
Apparently all of them. All of them are into philosophy. Even the left is philosophically bankrupt, and they're turning to further and further consistency within their stupid little set of principles.
Yeah. The alt-right is not turning towards religion. They turn towards race. To them, race is everything, blood and soil. That's the alt-right. So religion is just kind of like the only reason that they would be for religion is because, Catholicism and Christianity has predominantly been a white thing. If Christianity wasn't predominantly a white thing, they wouldn't even care about it. So it's all race to them. And anything that could be identified as being primarily white, they try to protect that, right? So that's the only reason they even talk about religion. But even then, a lot of them are pretty reticent, to jump into that pool. So The others, yeah, Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. I mean, I think at this point, they are just, man. It's hard to say. I mean, Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, they're much more about freedom, liberty, property rights. It's a pretty shallow understanding of it. They offer a pretty shallow defense.
Yeah,
I know Charlie Kirk ripped a lot of his talking points off of Yarn Brook, off of Yarn Brook videos, and you can kind of hear it in some of his debates and things. It's just straight up Yarn Brook talking points, which is okay, I guess. But I wouldn't. He's like Yarn Brook, but like watered down a little bit, which to make it a little bit more palatable. Don't mention selfishness and this kind of thing. But like Sam Harris, the intellectual dark web, Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, they're all kind of just they're apologetic capitalists. They're like, yeah, we need freedom and liberty and capitalism, but not too much because man is a fallen creature and so on and so forth. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain because, in a sense, they don't really want to be pinned down. It seems like they kind of want to just be these little floating abstractions out there, having podcasts and interesting conversations without actually asserting anything concrete.
Yeah, and that's going to be a lot of fun for a while. There's a lot of stuff going on the right, but eventually these people are going to group up, and I think religion is going to be, it's going to get stronger and stronger. I mean, you mentioned Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, but there's like Louder with Crowder and Milo Yiannopoulos. They're supposedly religious, right?
Supposedly.
That's a pretty watered down, weak form of religion that they preach.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, when they say religious, I'm just like, okay.
Show me where. Yeah, what?
Yeah, especially Milo.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Milo, if he walked into a church, he'd probably burst into flames.
So that's probably not stable long term. Milo's attitude towards religion and Louder with Crowder being as rude and vulgar and swearing and stuff, and then at the end saying that he's religious all the time.
The only sort of thinker on the right that really annoys me about when they bringing out the religion is Dennis Prager. I mean, when he starts talking about God and what is good and evil, because this is the thing, is like Dennis Prager does wade into these more philosophical waters of good and evil and things like this, and how can murder be wrong without God? And I mean, I was just watching this video yesterday, and I just wanted to facepalm because it was so just so ridiculous. He's the only one that really annoys me, and my dad and I get into it sometimes because my dad's like, he's friendly to objectivism, but he's also, still very Catholic in the sense, at least, that he goes to church every week, never really misses a week. And he's read a lot. My dad's an intelligent person. And he switched to Catholicism because he felt it was the only religion he could intelligently defend. So he takes this stuff seriously. And so he'll send me Prager videos. And I used to send him these like 10 paragraph responses, breaking it all down. And now I'm just like, what are you going to do? We'll talk about it next time we're on the phone. Because I know there's no convincing him. But yeah, Prager's the only one that really gets under my skin with his bringing religion into these conversations.
Yeah, I think he's leading the charge, and I think people will follow him. I think that.
Yeah. I mean, you see, Candace Owens had him on her show, or vice versa. I don't remember. And, he formulated some argument around God and religious morality, and Candace Owens, she was like, oh, my God. And now she seemed very disingenuous. She was like, that's so smart. Oh, my God. And I was like, Candace, don't, like, everybody can see right through you, okay? But, yeah, totally. I mean, in as much as, he's being brought into the fold and accepted, he's going to be leading the charge on this for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the direction it'll go more and more, like trying to give by giving a basis for morality in God. He is saying something that is not commonly spoken about among. I mean, maybe people that are 50 years old have some idea of these ideas, but someone who's 15 or 20 or 25 has very little idea of how to connect all that stuff together. And so this is a new principled, integrated way of looking at it, because they want some principled, integrated way of fighting against postmodernism.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, like, when I was younger, when I was in college, I began to have some questions finally when I was like a junior in college about the existence of God and whatnot. So I actually scheduled an appointment with my priest, and I was asking him all these questions about the existence of God and whatnot. And he was like, you need to read a book called the Handbook of Christian Apologetics, which is all of the metaphysical arguments for the existence of God. So, first mover principle, argument from ontology, all of this sort of thing. And I read it, and I was just like, oh my God, I found the answers, And then much later, I realized, once I found objectivism, then I could frame all of that in a certain context, and then begin to break it down again, But yeah, I was one of those people that needed answers. I needed integration. I knew I wasn't comfortable having religious conversations with people because I didn't have those answers. And I remember after I read that book, I had an argument with an atheist friend of mine, and he's actually he's one of my best friends to this day still, actually. But anyway, we were sitting at a bar, and I was arguing these arguments that I'd read out of this book, and he was just like, he just looked at me. He was like, "Dude, I'm too drunk right now to have this conversation." So he couldn't argue back with me. That's how well I had gotten to understand it all.
Yeah.
But then, later I was like, "Oh God, now I have to think my way out of all this stuff."
Yeah, and it's interesting to have arguments like that. I remember when I was younger, and people gave like Aquinas' 5 ways. And I thought, well, it seemed pretty sophisticated, and then you get older and you know philosophy, and you can just see right through it, and you say, no, come on, that's just whatever, primacy of consciousness or whatever. He makes that assumption right there or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have philosophy to untangle what is a lot of trickery.
Yeah, totally. And Jordan Peterson has introduced this whole other genre of trickery. And, my dad listens to Jordan Peterson, my brother does too, and they bring stuff to me, and I've had to be like, wow, this is all new, It's like, thanks, Jordan Peterson, we had it all under control, and then now you've just introduced all of this other genre bullshit that we have to deal with,
Yeah. How do you fight against Jordan Peterson?
Well, it's epistemological. A lot of it is, and if you listen to Jordan Peterson carefully, you begin to realize that when you get beyond morality, he's really good right up until a certain point, So and that point is metaphysics and epistemology. I remember on Dave Rubin, he accused Sam Harris of having Christian metaphysics. That's when I was like, okay, he's just throwing words around and doesn't have any clue what any of them mean. And so here's a good example. My brother wrote me an email one time, and he said one of Jordan Peterson's favorite stories. So Jordan Peterson is fundamentally a subjectivist epistemologically. So one of Jordan Peterson's favorite stories to tell is if you're, let's say you're on a hike, right, and you see this cliff, and it's this huge, big, beautiful cliff, and you're staring at it in awe. And then you hike up to the top of the cliff, and now you're standing at the edge of it, and now suddenly you're terrified and your adrenaline's pumping. And he was like, now it's no longer a beautiful cliff. It's something to fall down from. And so that is supposed to now negate the function of concepts entirely, because anything can change. It can be a big, beautiful cliff one minute, and now it's something to fall down from the next minute. And so my brother brought that to me, and I had to explain to him that it's precisely the nature of what it is. It's precisely the fact that it was before a beautiful cliff that now it's something to fall down from. Those two are the same things. The only thing that changed was your relation to it. So that example actually validates the fact that cliff didn't change, because if it did, it wouldn't be something to fall down from anymore. And it wouldn't have been that big, beautiful cliff in the first place. And moreover, I said, it's not the cliff that killed you anyway, it's the fall. So it's not the fall. It's not the cliff you're scared of. It's the fall that you're scared of.
Yeah. And it can be when you're down at the bottom looking at the cliff. The cliff is beautiful. When you're at the top, you're not looking at the cliff. You're using the cliff as a viewpoint. So that's not a very good comparison to begin with. That's a sloppy comparison to begin with, and the point that he's trying to prove with it is unfortunately very bizarre.
Yeah, totally. And so it's this sort of thing. It's these little epistemological games that Jordan Peterson loves to play.
It occurs to me that could be used as a parable in a better way to say you look up towards something and it looks beautiful, and then you climb up to the top of it and now it's scary, and that's kind of like success or something like that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Right?
I guess.
But that's part of the problem with his way of talking in parables or in analogies and metaphors and stuff, is what is the real point?
Right. And the thing is he tries mightily to make sure he never really makes a point.
Yeah.
And just right when he's about to make a point, diversion, off on a tangent, new parable.
Yeah,
and,
very frustrating.
You're just supposed to do exactly what he thinks you ought to be doing, which is, hear a story and then you sort of interpret some sort of truth from that. And then the truth arrives to you. And you're not really ever supposed to make a real point, because it's the job of the listener to extract the truth from the story.
I've never listened to somebody so long say so much and end up communicating so little at the end of it all. I think.
Oh, totally.
And I've listened to a lot of his stuff and, thinking maybe this speech he'll say something new, and maybe this one he'll say something new. And after 40 hours of listening, you're like, what has he said at all? Like, I'm looking for the new things he said because I've heard the old stuff, but what did he say in the old stuff? Like, what is he saying? Like, I don't know. Just get your own stuff out of it. Yeah, just listen to the parables and try to get your own meaning out of the stories.
Totally. 100%. That's all it is. It's no more complicated than that.
Yeah. And this is not a basis for moving forward for the right. So they're going to need principles, and they're turning to religion.
Yeah. We'll see, man. I don't know. The right is in a really interesting place right now. I don't see them turning to religion as fast as one might expect. I see them, if there's something Trump has done positive, it's that he has just energized people. You see it on Twitter, all these like mega girls with their like triple American flags in their handle and all of this stuff, and every day they're like, "Oh, this is my daily mega pro-America tweet." Have a great day, everyone. It's funny in a way. In a way, I laugh actually just even thinking about it. But he's excited people about America. It's all about America, America, America. And what is America? Well, it's the land of the free. It's liberty. They don't really. I don't think they so closely identify it, so as to say capitalist, but, we have to tell people that, like, when you say freedom and liberty, what you're saying is capitalism. Politically, what you're saying is capitalism. And so I don't know. And Trump doesn't really care about religion. That's not his big thing. He's not trying to be a compassionate conservative. He's not trying to save capitalism from itself. He's just getting people excited about America, which that's just one step away from getting people excited about freedom and liberty. Now, I'm sure a bunch of people are going to be commenting, "Oh, well, what about this and that and blah, 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 and he did this." Okay, I'm talking high-level, meta, basic stuff here. I'm not talking about nitty-gritty political decisions and things that he's done. He's gotten people excited about America, which really implicitly means freedom. And that's a good thing. So I don't really see people turning towards religion that much, because a lot of the people that are coming over to the right are lefties who could never associate with them before, precisely because they were so religious. This is like, I always, after I left the church, basically, and well, not basically, I did. I go to church with my parents when I'm home, just to be nice. But like I thought when I was out in San Francisco, I was like, God, if only the right would just let go of religion, or at least do it privately. Don't bring it into politics. If they would just do that, game over for the left. It's done. And in a way, Trump represents that because you're seeing these people come over to the right from the left. Finally, like the Tim Pools of the world, not really the Joe Rogans, but Tim Pool and some of these other people I saw on Twitter the other day. This guy he calls himself the conservative thug. He's like a former gangster out in L.A. who is now like wearing a MAGA hat and preaching Trump and all this sort of stuff. And these people could never get on board if the right was still hardcore religious. And so this is why I hesitate to say that the right's moving towards religion, because all the people coming over from the left would suggest the opposite.
Yeah, well, if Prager University indicates the situation, then it's not easy for the right to move towards religion. There's a very weak religious scene for them to move on to and work with. I mean, there's a lot of atheists after Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris got done doing their work. A lot of people just don't believe this garbage anymore. So the problem is, I think that there's nothing else besides religion on offer. I mean, there's objectivism, but that, we're doing our best to offer it. And like you say, Charlie Kirk's using our talking points. Everybody ultimately is going to be using Ayn Rand's talking points to the extent that they're successful, because we're the only ones that have a consistent case. So our job right now is to keep on offering the ideas and maybe start fighting religion again. Not that we ever stopped, but, it wasn't a big thing. The atheists were doing so much good work. Christopher Hitchens and everybody was doing so much good work. It's like we didn't have to fight the atheism fight for a while there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this makes me a quote-unquote bad objectivist or something, but I really don't care. I don't think religion is nearly as big a problem as we make it out to be. I mean, just assert freedom, assert liberty, assert individual rights, assert capitalism, assert a positive, and just do that. I think a lot of people that are religious are also the same people who appreciate those things and can be very happy, quite happy, practicing their religion privately. And I don't know. I don't see. I mean, certainly the Ayn Rand. You see some of the stuff the Ayn Rand Institute has on YouTube from like 10, 15 years ago, when they would do these panels, just blowing out these people on religion, and that didn't get them anywhere. It got them literally nowhere. And I think this is why Yarn Brooke is like, okay, the right is a lost cause. We need a new strategy now. And I mean, I really don't think the strategy ever should have been to just go after their religion, because again, you have to assert a positive. And freedom, liberty, individual rights, all these supposedly religious people are on board with that stuff. They like that. And they'll get on board with that stuff. And and then they'll go practice their religion privately. Where we find ourselves in trouble is when our politicians start talking about how we need to have, churches should be taking care of poor people and stuff, because then the left will turn that around and say, well, why stop at churches? We should use the most powerful institution in the world to do that, the United States government, if that's what we're all about. This is when we find ourselves in problems. And this is why Trump has been good on that, because he hasn't been asserting these religious moral principles, hasn't really been bringing that to the table very much.
He has no idea how to bring that to the table. He's clueless about religion. He doesn't know anything about religion.
Yeah, he's totally superficial. It's totally superficial. He just doesn't really care.
Which is a heartening thing to see in a president, finally.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like the Catholics. When the country, like in the 1800s, the Catholics were not the ones pushing these welfare programs and all this sort of thing. That was the Protestants. The Protestants were the ones lobbying for regulations and legislating morality. It was the Catholics. They were just strictly doctrine. They were just like, go to church, do your Catholic thing, and outside of that, do your own thing. So they were preaching doctrine, but the Protestants, they were preaching morality, and they were the ones trying to get these laws in place, the sort of purity laws and morality laws in place, and I don't even see that anymore very much, except like the weed conversation. But even weed, they don't even seem to care too much anymore. Anyways,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. I think at this point, it's safe to say that we can just assert a positive and move forward towards capitalism, freedom, liberty, individual rights.
Yeah, yeah, we've won on a lot of these conversations, and I think if Prager University is one of the strong things on the right for religion, then it looks like we've won the religious battle for now. So,
Yeah, because if Dennis Prager is the worst thing that we have to worry about, even he is like, yeah, but we still need freedom and all this other stuff, and yeah, I know, I get it. He's suing YouTube, and we can have a conversation about that. But by and large, yeah, he's totally in agreement with all this stuff.
well, I'm in favor of him suing YouTube if he can prove that they are, fraudulently or illegally doing this or that. Then that's fine. I don't want the government to use antitrust to break up YouTube or Google, because then the left would just take control of the pieces that are left over. So, but if he can prove that they've been taking down his videos, even though they shouldn't, legally they're obligated to allow people to put their stuff up there unless, X, Y, or Z, and they can't prove X, Y, or Z, but they're taking his videos down, then they are liable for that.
Yeah, we should all agree. I think we can all agree that the government shouldn't be interfering in these companies in the first place. The government created this problem when they created the
publisher platform dichotomy.
Yeah, they created the problem when they set up that dichotomy in the first place. But now it's there, so you may as well do what you can to take advantage of it. And we should also at the same time trying to get the government the hell out of that entirely anyways. And
well, if that dichotomy hadn't been set up, then Google and YouTube wouldn't have gotten so big. The only reason they got so big is because of that, of not holding them accountable for the stuff that was put on their platform. Like, if a newspaper prints something that they don't have a copyright on, they have to pay for that. They'll be sued for it. But not YouTube or Google.
Yeah. So the platform. Yeah,
so they've been allowed to get big by publishing stuff that they don't have to pay for and don't have to answer for. That's what got them so big. So, if we allowed them to get big by using those rules, to now turn around and say, but they're private companies, is just ridiculous. They've gotten this big based on these government rules. Yeah. So, if the government rules say you have to let people put stuff on there, you can't curate it for any purpose, then that's what the rule says.
Yeah. Yeah, and if the rules are in place, you may as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, and they got rich based on the rules, and now they're going to take Prager University's videos off because they don't like them. Sorry, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, and to be fair, they take all kinds of people's videos. They're demonetizing people constantly, even on the left. The right, yes, they're the ones that are the most vocal, but that's because it's mostly the people on the right that are producing all these videos. There's disproportionately so many people on the right producing content and putting it up on YouTube compared to people on the left that, of course, it's going to be the people on the right complaining about this. But there's one guy named David Pakman who, is a hardcore lefty, and he has a video up and he's showing his analytics. He was like, look, this is what happened when YouTube did this to my channel, and it's just his view counts are just plummeting. That Serpent ZA guy, ADV China, they get demonetized. China Uncensored, they get demonetized. It's happening and they're basically apolitical. So.
Who, ADV China?
Yeah, they get demonetized.
Well, I don't think they're apolitical. I think if the CCP has anything to do with it, then that's why they're demonetized. I think the CCP's involved. I'm afraid.
Maybe, yeah, but. China Uncensored, for sure. They make a lot of satirical content about the CCP, so, but whatever. It's not just like Dennis Prager and the, some mainstream people on the right. It's people on the left, it's people on the right, it's people who are, apolitical. It's all sorts of stuff. People get demonetized for all kinds of reasons. It's just they're so disproportionately a disproportionate number of people on the right putting stuff on YouTube because they don't, the people on the left, they don't really feel the need to, because they already have the media doing that for them. They've got CNN and everybody else doing that for them. Why the hell are they going to turn on a video camera and put themselves out there and subject themselves to harsh criticism in the public sphere when CNN's just out there saying what they would already be saying anyways?
Yeah, they could just turn on the Daily Show or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So of course you're going to see a bunch of people on the right, and because there's so many, of course they're the ones going to be getting demonetized the most.
Now, I think it's interesting that the left built these infotech utopias, and then they thought that it was going to be a bunch of lefties on here making videos, I guess. What did they think? What did they think YouTube was going to be like? What was their vision of this world? Which they built it, and now we've got 4chan, and we've got people on YouTube like Prager, and Jordan B. Peterson comes out of the woodwork and stuff, and that's what freedom of speech has given us, is more freedom and a bigger conversation about the world, not a laser focused move towards socialism. So, joke's on them.
I saw somebody write an article, like a Vox article or something, several months ago, maybe like a year ago, and they were like, "The internet was a mistake. we need to do this over again."
Yeah, we've set the people free. What the hell were we thinking?
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about the internet is, the extent to which you have free speech is the extent to which a forum will always go to the right. It happens everywhere, and you cannot. A forum like on Reddit, the Democratic Socialist Forum, like that cannot exist without heavy censorship from the forum moderators, taking things down, flagging things as inappropriate, eating stuff. You have to have so much censorship and moderation on a leftist forum to keep it from going right, because it's so anti-reality. And then you have places like 4chan and other Reddit boards that are unmoderated, and they just go right to the right to the right to the right. Now, it's true that the alt-right was basically born out of 4chan. Poll is the board, and 8chan as well. So I mean, you could use that as an argument in the opposite, but I would call them the exception to the rule. Again, I think that was the fault of Murray Rothbard and libertarianism for not giving them the answers that they were looking for. But yeah, I mean, you look at all these forums, like the extent to which people can say whatever the hell they want is the extent to which they figure everything out and end up going towards the right. It's hilarious. And that's why the internet has been such a boon for the right and such a threat to the left. The left hates the internet, and they hate the fact that anybody can say whatever they want on it.
Now, I don't think that objectivism, the old-fashioned understanding of objectivism, I don't think it looks at the left and the right in the way you've just outlined.
What do you mean?
It used to be that the left was more freedom morally, but controls economically. And the right was more freedom economically, but controls morally. And now it looks like the left is controls and the right is freedom.
Yeah.
That's your understanding of the left and the right today.
Yeah, it's changed. The left are just out and out totality, just out and out authoritarians, out and out in morally, in terms of on any topic, guns, except maybe drugs, except maybe weed, but like guns, economics, environmentalism.
I think even on guns and weed, you'll find on weed and drugs, you'll find a weird thing. You'll find them trying to control vaping. So I don't know if they've given up on the idea of state control of morality or whatever. They're trying to stop the sale of vaping in California.
The leftists are?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was like some studies that came out something recently about some lung disease being associated with THC vape cartridges or something like this. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, it came out like a day or two ago or something like this, yeah.
Huh. So I don't know
Yeah,
I don't know if they've given up on control of drugs, especially the fact that they want the state to control marijuana wherever it gets sold. So the left, even there, they don't make a convincing case of freedom, and it's the only one you were able to give.
yeah. I mean, they're not like, oh, you have a right to do what the drugs you want and blah blah blah. No, they're more like, hey, I want to be a stoner and don't want to get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So we should make this like at least a little bit legal.
Weed's natural, so it should be legal.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, they are the party of limiting speech, controlling you individually, the party of, frankly, hatred. And the right has become this positive sort of pro-freedom. I mean, not hardcore. They're still figuring it out, but like they see the problems of the left and they see the problems of authoritarianism, and this is a huge backlash against all of that. And the right's figuring it out. And yeah, I would say that's correct. I would say generally speaking, it's changed, and now you've got the left on one side, which is all about control and limiting freedom, and you've got the people on the right that are against that and therefore in favor of freedom, generally speaking.
Yeah, and they're just confused about how far they can take their principle of freedom and where to go and how to protect it and stuff. But they're all over there wanting freedom.
Yeah, and that's where I see, the purpose of my show is saying you can take your principles all the way to reality, because they're in line with it.
Yeah. Yeah, nice way to put it. Very nice. Well, have we covered the material we were meant to cover? This was a good chat. I like chatting with you about this stuff. This was interesting.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I'm having fun. I think probably I was thinking about it earlier. We were supposed to talk about the shift of the alt-right and whatnot, and frankly, the alt-right is largely dead now anyways. Yeah, they're still kind of like, the left is still trying to keep them from getting too involved in their ranks, because they're Yang gang, they're pro Yang, they like Ilhan Omar, so it's kind of funny. The left is like, oh no, God no, stay away, But the alt-right basically died with Charlottesville, so it's. I mean, we're doing a retrospective here and talking about a moment in time that's already passed when we talk about the alt-right. So I think we covered the material as much as it ought to be covered, which is not much.
All right. A lot of objectivists are upset with me because of my use of the term alt-right to include Candace Owens and company.
Yeah, and I don't know who you got that from, but it's patently wrong. Candace Owens, they hate Candace Owens. Candace Owens hates them. They hate Milo. Milo hates them. They hate Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson hates them. There's no anybody that says that they do not understand the internet.
Well, that's CNN and everybody. But anyways, yeah, back to that.
Well, yeah, CNN is trying to attach them to the alt-right precisely because the alt-right is as deplorable as they are.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll go and prepare myself for my next thing. I'm going to be speaking to Onar in Norway in just a bit here. So.
Oh, cool.
I'll go and prepare my life for that. Thank you for speaking with me again about this, and we should do another chat and hang out even if we don't have something to talk about. We'll just find something.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, this was good. So, all right, thanks for coming on, Luke.
All right, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. We'll speak again soon. Take it easy.
All right, you too. Later.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this little chat, which I was going to title "The Alt-Right Turns Towards Religion," but the alt-right's so small and insignificant, we ended up looking at the right turning towards religion a little bit. But also, we just sort of chatted about the right. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to title this video. Excuse me. But if you like what I do, please go to Patreon and patronize me. Thank you, Mr. Cropper out.